NORSCAN practices the Blood Raven. It takes strength of purpose to do this, but keep your loyalty true, and my lord's hand will guide you correctly. From Falkia the Bloody. You favor birds, Zarnath. Since you like birds so much, traitor, I will make you one. From Wulfric the Wanderer. NORSCAN executions are an unimaginably brutal affair, best not described on a full stomach. One above all is noted for its significance and sadism, the terrible rite known as the Blood Raven, known also among some tribes as the Blood Eagle. The earliest mentioning of the rite lies in 1396 IC, when Falkia the Bloody, shield maiden of the blood god Khorne, descended down from the halls of the Lord of the Skulls to lend her aid to a Norse army seeking to besiege the dwarven hold of Karak Gulg. Upon defeating the dwarven defenders, Falkia commanded the Norsemen to cut open their foes' rib cages and tear out their still pulsing lungs and place them upon the shoulders of the still living dwarfs like the folded wings of a hellish raven. Thus was born the Blood Raven, known by some tribes also as the Blood Eagle, the most revered and terrible of Norse traditions. A Norse warband led by a Chaos Lord known as Botvar, renowned throughout the lands of the north as a ferocious champion of Khorne, thundered down upon the northern dwarf hold of Karak Gulg, driven by the murderous command of the Lord of Battles himself. With the bloody frenzy of the berserkers, the fair-haired marauders battered the great dwarven citadel in order to break open the way to the hated Empire of Sigmar. Nigh unstoppable on the battlefield, and favoured mightily by his dark lord, Khorne had seen fit to favour the Norsemen with the appearance of his very own paramour. Empowered by Falkia's dark magic, the Norsemen shattered the dwarfish defenders with renewed aggression and tore out their living lungs from their shattered ribs in honour of Karnath, as Falkia directed them. The Demon Prince and Chaos Warlord fell upon the King of Karak Gulg, Skadi, Ironjaw, and it was Botvar who felled the king and feasted upon his heart. The Blood Raven, or the Blood Eagle, is as complex as it is grotesque, considered to be a method by which enemies are sacrificed to Khorne. Broadly speaking, the ritual involves, in order, shattering the victim's ribs, tearing out their lungs, and placing them upon their shoulders, so that they resemble the folded wings of a great raven or eagle. In one style of the execution, the skin of the person's chest is sliced and peeled off, exposing their bloody ribs. The sternum is then broken, usually with a weapon, but amongst more savage Norsemen, with bare hands and fists. The two ends of the rib cage are then taken and pulled outwards, a feat that necessitates the immeasurable strength of the common Norseman. The lungs are then taken out and splayed outwards, causing the slain to seem as though he or she possesses wings, much like a raven or eagle. With this act, thanks is given unto the blood god for victory. Other usages of the blood raven involve instead flaying the flesh from the slain's back rather than his or her front. The ribs are then cut from the victim's body, made to bend outwards until they break. Finally, the pulsing lungs are pulled out and are thus set against the dying's back. It is a terrible, lingering death that invites the sadistic pleasure of the dark gods, and it is with a butcher's aplomb that the Norse carry it out. WEREGILD. It would be easy to decry the Norsemen as being lawless savages, with no care for the destruction and carnage they leave in their wake. Truly, they are a savage people who have little interest in other races beyond slaughtering or enslaving them, and who openly worship the Dark Lords of Chaos. However, Norse culture is far more than simply a series of endless battles, and to decry Norse society as being lawless is simply false. Favoring simple laws over the complex ones preferred in the Empire and elsewhere, the WEREGILD, man gold in the tongue of the Northmen, is one of the few universally accepted traditions of NORSCA. To put it simply, any crime, no matter how great or small, incurs a debt, or WEREGILD. When a man is wronged in Norseman society, he may seek recompense from a Jarl, Chaos Champions, and leaders of Norse society. The man states his case, and the accused is given a chance to defend himself. Witnesses of honorable character are then produced by both sides to lend their perspectives on things, and once all the evidence is presented, the Jarl comes to his decision. Such a verdict rarely comes easily, and is never entirely fair, depending on the quality of the arguments and the Jarl's own mood. In any event, the final arbitration of the matter rests with the Jarl, who sets the ultimate price of WEREGILD. This can be in the form of a fine, which varies according to the importance of the individual murdered. Northman kings and jarls thus require the highest level of recompense. Over the centuries, the WEREGILD has expanded to cover all manner of possible offences. Thus, in instances where no one has been killed, a jarl must be somewhat creative in his arbitration. Each jarl must fall upon his own wit and cunning when devising a WEREGILD, basing the recompense on the crime itself. In the case of a wrongful allegation, a jarl may order the accuser's tongue to be ripped out. Assaulting another man's wife may result in the rapist being made a eunuch, as a purely practical consideration, seeing as how the accused could not properly control his passions. The taking of limbs is a fairly popular punishment when the accused cannot pay the WEREGILD, and in some cases even when he or she can. In the case of a particularly dishonorable deed, the accused may be forced to undertake an impossible quest to some horrific den in NORSCA that will likely lead to their deaths. This is usually an amicable situation for all involved, for not only does it serve as an appropriately terrible punishment, but it also is considered a wonderful adventure, for what is better to a Northman than to be set upon a heroic quest to best some nameless horror in the glory of single combat, thus achieving glory and the favor of the dark gods as a result. The manner in which the WEREGILD is paid out varies amongst the tribes. Certain times, the arbitration of WEREGILD may involve a transfer of titles and station to the wrong party, and there are even some cases of Norsemen taking the women, children, holdings, and even the thralls of their enemies as recompense for losing their own as a result of the accused actions. Other times, the WEREGILD may not even fall on the guilty party, but instead on a relative, such as a wife or child, who will often have to part with a limb or eye to repay the debt of the patriarch. Sometimes it may even pass upon the next person to enter the area, a preferred arrangement for the accused, but often a risky one if a man of importance, such as a jarl or champion, is the one who enters. The shamans of NORSCA, however, have no worldly WEREGILD attached to them. Rather, it is thought that the reprisals from the dark gods themselves settle all debts those foolish enough to strike a seer must pay. As the gods are very active in Norscan society, shamans, seers, Wiki, and chaos sorcerer occupy a high level of importance in the echelons of Norse society and are afforded a great deal of respect, seen as the oracles through whom the gods communicate their holy will. Of course, as the Norse see spirituality as a matter directly between a man and the chaos gods themselves, no self-respecting Northman would depend on a middleman to speak with his own deities. It is either a desperate or reckless man of NORSCA who would dare raise his hand against a seer. For even the fearsome warriors of the North are wise enough to fear the retribution of their cruel gods. Norse tribes dedicated to the master of the Skull Throne have no reverence for spellcasters such as chaos sorcerers, and invariably slay such seers whenever they find them. To compensate for their death of arcane knowledge, Norsemen tribes who worship the blood god have their own form of seers, a sect of terrifying warrior priests known as the Blood Fathers. These Norsemen are legendary warriors who bear the mark of Khorne and are said to receive visions of bloodshed and knowledge of battle from him. For even a devotee of Khorne to raise his hand against them is said to invite the displeasure of an already raging god. The Blood Fathers of NORSCA are rightly feared throughout the North, For it is said that there is no trick of axe and sword that Khorne has not revealed unto them. The SKALDS. SKALDS are keepers of northern lore and chroniclers of the histories of the Norsemen. Part entertainer, part warrior, these individuals are held in high esteem by Norse jarls and kings for their wisdom and knowledge. These men recount the sagas and deeds of the ancestors and the dark gods themselves, often also composing new sagas out of the feats and exploits of contemporary heroes to add to the collective history of the NORSCANs. As they are skilled and powerful warriors too, many Norse war leaders find it prudent to have a skald in their cohort. When the call to war is sounded, these men have the honor of bearing their leader's own standard into battle. Birth. Amongst many Norscan tribes, it is believed that a birth cannot occur without a death. The arrival of a newborn is thus said to signify doom for the tribe, and so, to appease the hungry spirits, the Norsemen would butcher a thrall. Other tribes, however, see birth as the truest sign of their god's favor and will. There is a tradition among some tribes where the father would feast upon the flesh of the afterbirth, for it is believed that this material holds within it the essence of change, and thus by devouring it, one can draw strength and power from it. Yummy. Mourning. There are two ideal fates for a warrior in Norscan society: gaining the marks of the dark gods and death. As a result of this, women are forbidden to mourn their sons and husbands. Instead, they are to celebrate their passing with feasting and praise for the departed. It is a common custom for Norscan women to cut off their fingers as an offering to the shadowy warrior hags, that the demons might bear their men safely to the honored halls of the dark gods. The end.